see with the Diadea, with Sunser, with Dune as well. So that's a lot of setup potential for the Pei in the early game as well.
Yeah, okay, so important question. I'm not going to do it the same as Hall. I'm not going to ask you to pick a side, but I'm going to ask you which draft is easier to execute.
Personally, I think Elevates is a little bit easier to execute because it's actually heavily reliant on the Motsu, right? The cannon blast coming through, if that lands, then you're onto a winner. But if that misses, then it kind of becomes a little bit more difficult. But then you've still got the battlefield command from Liu Bang. You have Musashi there with the duel at death, able to actually hone in and being able to restrict them into a small space or even just like a board. Yixing is the hero you need. So they have a lot of control on the side of Elevate. So I'd say in terms of execution, Elevate takes it for me.
Yep, I agree as well. I think at this point, you know, the difference in this is the type of commitment you have to give when you initiate onto battles, right? Elevate, they're just waiting for the cannon blast. If they get a stun, hey, that's the marker for you to go. But on the other side, for the side of Gen.G, if you're going to be using like Set Sail, Unruly Blade, it's a full commitment, right? You need to wait 4 to 5 seconds for the Unruly Blade to be off cooldown. So which means if you go in, you have to go all in.
That's it. It's putting everything on red, right? That's the whole point of Gen.G's team comp. So they're on the red side. They got to pull it all in on red. Let's see if they're able to actually execute this against Elevate. But it all depends if Elevate can just control them and say, like, hey, look, we can see you being aggressive, but we're actually going to change the pace around. We're going to make the pendulum swing in our favor.
Yeah, and I think right now we have to identify, right? What are the prior win conditions that both teams are looking out for? I think at least for the side of Elevate, everything is going to be falling onto Azar, right? They need to provide enough room for him to get the lead in lane and a G6 as well. These are the two markers that need to have a successful start to the game.
They need a successful start to the game, but they also, I feel like, need to get to the late game, whereas Gen.G, they are a ticking time bomb with the Pei. He needs to have that influence early. And right here, we're seeing that level 1 invade, right? There we go. The Wind Slash does connect in. It is the bit of farewell. They're going to get first blood onto a G6. Rock is a little bit too far behind. It's actually Mitsuri picking up first blood. Are Elevate done here? No, Clue is able to use the bit of farewell to get out of there just for now. But they're still tracking him down. Clue takes a lot of damage from Hyde. So Elevate already 2-0. Not going the way Gen.G expected.
Yep, and this is what I mean by overcommitment, right? So for Gen.G, if you dive, you have to dive all in. Elevate, they can choose to react or not because they have the option of mobility. They can escape. There are mechanisms to kind of deter the rest of the team from coming into chase. And this extra shield coming in was the difference maker for the side of G6.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we saw him actually just escape there by the skin of his teeth and then be so reactive to be like, hey, guys, if you want to come into our home ground, we're going to react and actually do the thing that you aim to do, which was get an early first blood, get some early gold on the board. But they failed. They failed.
Yep, and here's the byproduct, right? Azar now is going to have free farm. He takes the Firebeak as well. And I like the fact that they're trying to even out the farm by swapping the lanes here, but it's not working out well.
Not working out well just yet, no. I don't feel like it will. I think it sort of pays dividends later on for the side of Elevate here. It just means that Arlie's able to just get that resources up, which is the thing you really want to kind of stunt the growth of, right?
Yep, and to make matters worse, now Gen.G, they don't have any resources to go for.
No resources to go for at all just yet. I mean, we're seeing Ray and Roche just try and like hold their own up into the clash lane here. It's just trying to put a little bit of pressure onto Liu Bang, but we know with the Battlefield Command, he's able to get anywhere he wants to, but Clue having to use his abilities to latch onto Inua there just to escape that one, and it was all thanks to the Blazing Brilliance just to keep away Elevate.
Yep, every time it's used as a defensive measure, I think it's not going to be in favor of Gen.G, right? So at this point, Elevate, I think they're just playing according to how their draft works best. Gen.G, they still have some figuring out to do. First and foremost, maybe get a little bit more farm and maybe try and create some space for Rock because Pei needs the farm, and right now at level 5, he's not in a position where he needs to be. He needs to be over level. He needs to be higher than a G6. He needs to make the difference.
Yeah, he definitely needs to be ahead of the curve, right? And I mean, it's not looking that way in terms of the overall resources, but we don't know what it's like between these two. But from what we've seen so far, obviously the failed level 1 engage, the gank onto their enemy's jungle, I feel like it's definitely going to be a Jizzix here with the more gold. He does use the duel at death to get out of the way of the Blazing Brilliance, which was beautifully executed there by a Jizzix. It is Hyde coming in here as well. From the Clash lane, Lu Bang gets hit with the Destiny counter. The set sail coming through to the back line actually connects onto Hyde. Gets the kill for Gen.G, but here is the world of my board, locking him into a small space. We do see that Jizzix gets the kill onto Clue. Mitsura gets the kill onto Wawa as well. So well played by Elevate. We saw a little bit of a glimmer of hope there for Gen.G.
Yeah, it was, right? It's a huge risk because they don't have a traditional farm lane hero at this point. I think it's not paying off that well yet, but I can kind of see, okay, late game, they want to make sure that if the early game fails, at least they can have something to fall back on. This was a beautiful bolt. The set sail definitely did hit his mark. Stopped the stuns from coming in because the Mortal was actually knocked up as well. But, you know, return fire, at this point, the problem is Azar. Nobody has dealt with the fact that Azar has been free farming this first, 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it's like Bob Ross says, it's those beautiful little mistakes, right? It's like that set cell wasn't meant for Motsu, but it connected, it stopped the stuns. It kind of worked in their favor, but it still meant that Elevate was able to get on top. But speaking of getting on top, Wawa is currently on top of Azar there. He's able to lay step out of the way, though, so not quite getting the kill and stunting the growth of Azar for now.
Yep, couldn't finish the job, but that's a very scary idea. The fact that Azar can be threatened by Wawa at this point just like that, that serves as a warning. But that's only momentary because late game, I don't think Azar is going to worry that much about Wawa.
Oh, absolutely not. He'll absolutely shred the heck out of Wawa, to be honest. We do see that the Doomsday has been built onto pay there, so a little bit more damage coming on for the side of Gen.G. And there we are. We're seeing the gold difference actually is going in the favor of Rock for now. So they are starting to build that progress into trying to make this team comp work.
Yeah, level 10 already at this point. Already has that level advantage or EXP advantage going up against a G6. So that's good news coming in from the side of Gen.G, right? But they need a little bit more. Now, a 3-man attempt at the top T1. I'm not sure whether they will be allowed, and looks like, hey, permission granted. They will take that T1 for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Lu Bang is not going to take a 3v1, right? Especially with a Vanguard rocking around up into the Clash lane. That was guaranteed, but they do make a trade into the farm lane. T1 does fall, but speaking of falling, it's going to be Ray getting the kill onto Hyde. So Elevate going into a potential team fight into this mid lane are down a member.
Hyde, I think he made a correct decision, but the team couldn't capitalize on that, right?
Oh, that was nice there by Wawa, but it's able to escape. Azar being so slippery. Jizzix uses the duel at death onto Clue, but then gets the bit of well, it is going to be Rock getting the kill onto a Jizzix this first time around. Battlefield Command does come through to change the side of the pendulum, going over to the side of Elevate for now. The Wind Slash doesn't connect fast enough. It is Everlist getting the kill onto Ray.
Yeah, this was a big win for the side of Elevate, and finally they are able to put a little bit of pressure on that mid T1, which is going to open up the map quite a lot. So Gen.G, I think they have to play a little bit more conservative for the next 1 to 2 minutes, and hopefully they get the smite onto this Azure Golem.
They were able to get it. They got it, and they also got Hyde as well. So nice from Inua with the Blazing Brilliance from the back line, able to take out Hyde. So there goes one of their front line. They're now heavily reliant on a Jizzix going into these next team fights, right? But it's Elevate taking that T1, and like you were saying, Kin, it's very detrimental for the side of Gen.G.
Yeah, this is going to, going to cut the vision that is available to Gen.G, but here we go. If Rock can actually get a pick off at this moment of time, it's going to be very beneficial to Elevate, right? They can then take a pick, choose one of the T1s or the T2s on the mid or on the bottom, and make life a little bit more difficult and more stressful for the side of Elevate.
Yeah, I mean, we see that Rock here is actually level 10 right now. We do see a 2v1 going in onto Hyde. They are putting a lot of pressure onto the Clash lane, so maybe Gen.G put the feelers out and feel like the clash lane is the weak point here. But speaking of weak points, we do see Inua going taken down. A bit of revenge there for Hyde in that previous 2 minutes ago, falling down. Think inside the box does connect, but it's not going to be enough. Rock gets the kill. Clue looking pretty low. Hyde is still on the run on the wrong side of the map right now. Luckily for him, it looks like he may get taken down. He's able to get Clue though, as Wawa's going straight into the backline, taking out Azar. So a good trade there for Gen.G for 2 trade.
Yeah, now you can start to see why there was a particular thought process on the way they drafted, right? So they're trying to sustain through the fights, and right now there's plenty of control. Okay, Pei doesn't have too much of CC available. That's going to come from Bray as well as Clue and Inua and Wawa, right? But there's 4 different members with stuns coming in. Now, unfortunate for Inua, he did blow his ultimate, and 3 of them did get caught on the board, right? But because they're so tanky, there's no way. There's lack of damage coming in from the side of Elevate. And when you get too close to Gen.G is happy to oblige. They will take that fight any day.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely working out in the favor of Gen.G, right? Going into that kind of what we would class as the mid game now, as we're approaching that 10-minute mark for the shadow variants of the neutral objectives to come up. But I feel like Gen.G are definitely gaining back some control that they lost in the early game. Taking that T2 up into the clash lane is definitely going to help them out, especially if they decide to try and focus the Shadow Overlord, right? It's going to be a lot harder for the side of Elevate if they don't get any lane priority up into the clash lane, is to take that fight over the Shadow Overlord.
I think Ivalice needs to be a little less daring, right? He needs to land the stuns and only go in when he has the option to control 3 or 4 or even more members. Because at this point, you're playing to the strengths of Gen.G. Gen.G are a particularly melee draft. You can't fight face to face.
He tried to face check the bush with the cannon blast, but actually got meat with the maker as they have the minions going up to the T2 into the farm lane as well. So great timing by Gen.G.
Yeah, it's difficult, right? As Elevate, I think they understand the strength. They need more time for Azar. He has been free farming, and I think they have been listening in, right? Because Gen.G now, they're putting so much pressure across the map. Macro game on point. There is not a lot of space now that's safe to farm for the side of Azar.
Yeah, no, he's going to struggle. I mean, with those 2 T2s down on the side lanes, it just opens up the world buffet for the side of Gen.G just to kind of have their way with Elevate's jungle whenever they want to. They take the Shadow Tyrant over the Overlord here for some extra damage. I mean, this pays very well going on to pay the likes of Angela as well, right? There's a lot going on there for the side of Gen.G.
Yeah, and to make things worse, you know, at this point, right, hang on. This could be a big one.
Oh, yeah, Blazing Brilliance sets up a great team fight there. Takes out a Jizik, so down goes the jungler already. Set Sail actually being used a little bit too late there, but it doesn't matter. It means that Sunset is in the match. Wawa is here to stay as they decide to push this clash lane as well as the mid lane here. Hyde actually getting out with a very lack of skin on the back of his hide.
Yeah, look. Clue doesn't need any money. He doesn't need gold. It's just 4 people on the side of Gen.G sharing it. And right now, that's too much gold going into their pockets now, leading by 5,000 gold. And I think we were talking about this just now. They have kept on pressuring Hyde, right, in the clash scene. And for good reason, right? If your battlefield command doesn't heal enough, it doesn't protect you, what's the use in having Hyde?
What is the use in having Hyde, right? I mean, you need to be playing on the front foot for Lu Bang to actually make sense, I feel. Like, if you're playing from the back foot and then you're having to use Battlefield Command to kind of try and overturn the tides of already a losing battle, it then becomes pretty useless. But in that case, you can kind of use it as a scapegoat that we saw Hyde do there. He was trying to take a 1v1 with Wawa, and Sunset going against the Lu Bang, I feel like a 1v1 would definitely go over to the side of Sunset just from damage alone.
Yeah, exactly. The burst component is too strong. And also, he's able to interrupt that battlefield command if he gets his timing right? So right now, Gen.G, the draft making a lot of sense. Clue, he doesn't care about, you know, doing too much at this point. He's just a walking tower, walking wall, right? He's just giving vision so that Gen.G can plan their next move.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Clue's vision score, right? I mean, it's got to be high considering how he's playing this match, and it's definitely working well for Gen.G. Those that was looking like a very shaky early game is definitely starting to become a fruitful potential victory here. All they need to do is make sure they claim these higher ground turrets, make sure they don't lose a team fight on the side of Gen.G.
Yep, Clue still has not used the Guardian Redemption combination just yet, and which means there is a huge amount of survivability on the side of Gen.G as well.
Yeah, we do see the Vanguards coming around as well as a Shadow Vanguard at the high ground turret into the clash lane. World is my board gets activated just maybe as a bit of a deterrent here, but it's not going to stop the Vanguards from attacking those high ground turrets. And down goes the mid lane one. Wawa into the back line there, trying to take out Hyde, because down goes their front line. Oh, Yi Xing is getting able out of there just thanks to his passive, the invincibility at low health. But Jizzix doesn't, Hyde doesn't quite have that same thing. He does get locked down. High ground turret goes down into the farm lane as well for Gen.G. They have the Vanguard, can elevate, clean these minions out before Gen.G takes the crystal.
It's going to be a tough defense. I think they can do it, but it's really up to Gen.G, right? Gen.G says, hey, that risk is not worth taking. They will back off. But so far, Gen.G, it has been impressive, right? The fact that they came from behind and now have a considerable lead. It's not the biggest. It's not something you can't overturn, but it's going to be a mountain to climb for the side of ELV.
I mean, just for the sheer fact that they don't have the high ground turrets, I feel like it is definitely a Mount Everest to climb, right? It's harder to get back when you don't have any higher ground turrets because you're now playing against those enhanced minions, and that definitely, I would rather be on the side that have the enhanced minions than be fighting against them.
Well, it's the best chance for them to elevate, you know? But no, at this point, it's a difficult thing to consider because elevate, I don't think they have the resources to get things done. No.
Yep, Hyde goes straight into the thick of it, though. They do get the Tyrant, so that means the extra damage comes along into this team fight, which is timed nicely. Jizzix looking pretty low. The Blood Rage does come in a bit clutch there, as well as Ivalice using that think inside the box, splitting the team fight on two fronts, but it's still going in the favor of Gen.G. That 2-1 trade, Clue going in with a bit of farewell. Nicely done there by Gen.G Rock. Getting that double kill. Azar needs to try and get out of there, but there is a set sail from Wawa. Is he going to connect? It does, and Azar goes down. It's now looking like it may be the closing doors here for Elevator Game 1.
Yep, Jizzix alone against the likes of the minions as well as a 4-member strong Gen.G.
Yeah, the Destiny counter comes through with the minions. It is Game 1 going over to Gen.G.
Spectacular performance. I like the growth that Gen.G has shown. Definitely have shown they've improved since the qualifiers. A little